Yo, what's good? It's your man, 100 Grand Ross with the Rock Never Stops. The Detroit Pistons are officially 27 losses in a row. I want to dive into that in this video. Um, this is not an easy video to do, but I think it's one that's going to really confront a lot of us fans, a lot of people who have a lot of hopes, and a lot of people who may or may not really understand what it means to win in the NBA. Let me just start off by saying the Detroit Pistons have fought. They have fought game in and game out. I don't think that anybody can really question the fire, the hunger, the desire, the effort. That has been consistent. And kudos for Monty Williams for keeping this young team bought in to giving 100% effort every single play. I completely get it. And that's important. That is extremely important because nothing is worse than seeing a team not fight. To not see the fight in them, that is a fireable offense, because that has everything to do with the leadership and the ability to communicate and connect with your players. And so the fact that Monty Williams has been able to consistently get that out of them, kudos to him. Here's the issue, and I think that this has been the uh, real kind of critique that I've had when it comes to the Detroit Pistons, is that they started the season with the mindset of defense was going to be our calling card. And then because they weren't winning, they decided to shift and say, okay, we're going to go with offense. We're going to go with offense and try to get offensive players to just give more effort to improve on defense. And hopefully that makes a difference. But the reason why that I thought that they should have stuck with the defense is for a couple of reasons. Not just the turnovers and the lack of offensive execution consistently, especially down the stretches of games, but that their defense, meaning starting Ausar Thompson and Killian Hayes, led to a significant transition game for the Detroit Pistons that allowed them to supplement a lot of their offense to make up for the turnovers and the lack of half court execution. You see, most young teams, because they know that they're still learning the ropes, they know that they need a lot of possessions. And those extra possessions give them more opportunities to score to make up for the lack of an ability to optimize the opportunities that are in front of them to score. In other words, taking bad shots, turnovers, um, or just not knowing what to do in a given circumstance. And now you're not getting the ball to the players who should have the ball, and you're not sure where to be. And so the defense can easily bottle them up like they were doing with Cade, and prevent them from maximizing their talent and being able to really score and take over games. And so having a great defense is what allows you to get those extra possessions. So it allows you to get easy buckets. And if you listen to my kind of prognosis of what I thought the Detroit Pistons should have gone with for this season, that I thought they were going to go with for this season, which was starting Ausar Thompson and potentially Jaden Ivey as well, the main reason was for their transition game. That I thought that with Duren and Isaiah Stewart in the front court, rebounding at a high level, they would be able to have an amazing transition game. Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Ausar Thompson are all viable playmakers in the open court to be able to either score or make the correct read to get somebody an open shot. And with those three heading a fast break, they should be extremely effective. They should be a top 5 to 10 team in terms of transition points. But when a lot of fans started saying, hey, you know what, we need to start Jaden Ivey and Bojan Bogdanovic, I cautioned against it. I said, if you're going to do that, then you got to pull Isaiah Stewart out and start Ausar Thompson, because you're going to have three perimeter defenders who are average at best perimeter defenders. You don't have a perimeter defender who you can key in on and say, hey, this guy is going to be able to make plays and make it easier for the rest. That you won't have to put Cade or Ivy on a primary offensive player for the other team. That they can play off of them. And that Ausar could take on that role. I thought he was perfect for it, especially what he showed us in the summer league and preseason and early in the regular season. But they decided against it. And I somewhat understand because you know what, when you are losing and everyone is watching and media gets involved, especially ESPN, and they blow it up and the YouTube, critics, start jumping in and start talking about fire Monty and all these different things, you get the pressure and the pressure trickles down and eventually it lands on the coach to the point where he concedes. And so there's been a shift. This team is now going with offense. But this is an issue for me as well, namely because the veterans who are supposed to be able to help steer the offense, who are really average or above average, slightly above average offensive players, are also below average defensive players, meaning Bojan Bogdanovic, Joe Harris at this point in his career, and Alec Burks in this point of their career. All three are below average defenders. And so playing them extended minutes in order to hope to optimize the offense, well, it only further depletes your defense. It only further makes it hard for you to get into a transition game. And as we've seen, teams like the Utah Jazz have been able to get off. Teams that have struggled offensively, that have not been a high level offensive team, have been able to get off on the Pistons. And so these close losses, we have to also reflect back on, well, how did it become close in the first place? Because you let Kelly Olynyk and you let my man, I always forget his name, from the University of Alabama, Colin Sexton, get off on you, right? And when I say get off, that means have a hot shooting offensive night because you didn't have anyone that could contain them. You didn't have perimeter defense that could take away 3-point shots and force them to drive into your help bigs on the inside. You didn't have guys rotating on the back end who had the athleticism to challenge shots over the top or get defensive rebounds on the weak side. You had Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks. And these guys have not been able to do that job. Now, I do appreciate that head coach Monty Williams has been willing to experiment with guys like Kevin Knox. I think at his size, 6'9", with a 7'2" wingspan and athleticism, he offers really good length and shooting as well. So he has length on defense, and he can get out in transition somewhat. But he's not Ausar Thompson. He's not a defensive stopper. And so you're still lacking that component. But at this point, you are 27 losses in a row, and very little matters outside of let's just get a direction. Look, you already are setting records. You're already all-time losing this roster. Okay, it is what it is. You're here now, and you're going to have to sit with where you're at. I don't think they need to go after a Zach LaVine. Don't go after a Kyle Kuzma. Don't go after guys that are going to disrupt everything that you've been doing and not really give you enough back, right? Kyle Kuzma is not taking you into the playoffs now or ever. Zach LaVine couldn't take the Bulls into the playoffs until DeMar DeRozan got there. And we all see that Zach LaVine is out and DeMar DeRozan is once again leading them back into the playoffs. They're now officially the 10th seed and in the play-in, right? And only a few games outside of the number 8 seed or the number 6 seed. So all this is to say is that there are no quick fixes for the Detroit Pistons at this point. There's no quick resolve. There is no quick trade. If anything, what they need to do is trim the fat. They need to double down on a core. Hey, if it's Cade, Ivey, Duren, then just trim the fat. I love Ausar Thompson, I do. But developing 4, that is an overwhelming task for any coach, especially if you're expected to win. Now, when Oklahoma City was doing it, they had no expectation of winning. They had Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was awesome for them for the past couple of seasons. But before this season, there was no expectation of winning. And so they could go with Josh Giddey and Jalen Williams, and they could go with, other guys to develop along the way. Isaiah Joe and, Ousmane Dieng and, Terrence Mann. They were able to develop guys with very little expectation. But unfortunately for Detroit, they're actually used to winning. They actually have a heritage and a pedigree of championships. And so there's a little bit more pressure. At this point, moving forward, though, Monty Williams and the coaching staff have to choose a direction. And Troy Weaver is going to have to respond to that in kind, which means that as this trade deadline approaches, they need to trim the fat. We know Isaiah Stewart is a backup center. He's not a power forward. I love his shooting, but he's going to be 10 times more effective off the bench. I say keep him and trim the fat. Isaiah Livers, let him go. Killian Hayes, if he's hurt, you may have to let him go. You may have to let him go. Marvin Bagley III, you got to let him go. James Wiseman, if you can, let him go. Marcus Sasser, it hurts my heart to say it, you might have to let him go. You need veterans who can play both directions, on both ends, who know how to win right now, to surround this core. And if you're going to do a core, I would say at the most of 4, Cade, Ivey, Thompson, and Duren, everyone else has to go who's not contributing to winning right now. If you cannot contribute and play both ends, if you are not a veteran, and I'm talking about, they need to go out and get guys like Gordon Hayward. They need to go out and get guys like Markieff Morris. They need to go out and get guys like maybe a Terry Rozier. They need to go out and get guys who've been a part of winning teams, who have been able to play at a high level before, who understand their role. A guy like Markieff Morris who can play mentor, right? Bring some toughness. I think he's played in Detroit before, or was that his brother Marcus? They need to go out and get Marcus Morris. They need to go out and get PJ Tucker. They need to go out and get a bunch of veterans who can surround these young, talented, offensive-minded players, especially Cade and Ivey, right? And they need to be able to support them with knockdown threes and tough defense, who know how to play both ends, who can make good passes and play make or facilitate and get them for backdoor cuts and make the game easy for them, right? And don't worry about if the veterans that I mentioned are the ones that you think that they should go after. You get the point. The point is you need to figure out who your core is and surround them with veterans. No more young experiments. Kevin Knox is great. Probably needs to go. It's not because they're not good. It's not because it's not worthwhile to invest in. It's because the amount of investment that this team has undertaken is beyond its capacity. And that is evident in losing 27 games in a row. As they move forward, I just want to see trades. Go out and get guys who are vets, who know how to win, who've been around for a while. Ish Smith, right? Guys like Taj Gibson, right? Go out and get two-way players who can come in and teach and instruct and be in the right place at the right time. Do the things that you're supposed to do in order to win. Go out and get a Gary Harris, right? Go out and get a veteran, because that's what it's going to take to turn this around. That's what it's going to take in order to really see the payoff with this core. Otherwise, unfortunately, as has been said over and over, you're going to end up teaching these guys how to lose. And to get rid of that stench, you're almost going to have to clear house. But as always, I want to know what you all think. What do you think the next steps are for this team? Holler at me in the comments section. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. I'm going to get at y'all next time. Peace.